Hello and welcome to History Chats this afternoon. Yeah, we're gonna get started here. Actually, we can kind of just jump right into it. I think, yeah. I'm gonna introduce Gary, and he's gonna talk about some of the very exciting world of municipal definitions and things like that. So I'll just take it away.
Thank you, Ben. Good afternoon, everyone. This week, continuing the monthly survey of what we call civics, social studies, whatever you want to say, we're sort of tuned in this week to certain levels of government that we see pretty much on the local level. Who shovels your street in front of you, your roads down the county highway, who takes care of your garbage, who gives you a tax bill. All of those things sort of revolve around your local government. You know, somehow you have a variety of governments maybe in front of you. Last week we talked about the county and specifically the county board. Today we're going to talk talk about the variety of different governments that we see not only here in Marathon County but throughout Wisconsin, and I'm sure a variety of states throughout the United States. A variety of other states may have different levels of government, but here in Wisconsin and here in Marathon County we have three levels of government that I can think of besides the county government, of course, that we talked about last week: towns, villages, and cities. So we're going to talk a little bit about these, and we have some examples of those here in Marathon County. But before we get too far, I just want to say that all levels of government, whether county, city, village, all come back to the Wisconsin statutes. The laws of the state of Wisconsin pretty much speak to government and how government runs. The Wisconsin statutes tells every level of government what it can do and how to do it. So we refer to these statutes as really the governing body, and if they change, it's up to the Wisconsin legislature and the governor to change those laws with regard to local government. So, in Wisconsin, in the Wisconsin statutes, we have and I'm just referring these to you so you sort of know where the laws come from. Chapter 60, for instance, speaks to the laws with regard to Wisconsin with regard to towns, what they can do, how they do it, town meetings, town boards, a variety of other things that they have to do and how they do it. So it lays it out. Town sanitary districts, so we'll get to what a town is in a few minutes, but chapter 60, Chapter 61 deals with villages. So what are the rules and regulations with regard to how villages govern their own specific village clerk? So it goes down to the constable, the powers of the peace officers, the village board, recycling. Again, who has the power to recycle? The village planning will, a little bit of an indication of what villages do, not so much of what they don't do, but most of what they do and how they do it. And then, of course, Chapter 62 of the Wisconsin statute speaks to cities, and we'll talk a little bit about that also. But we're familiar with certain cities in Marathon County. We'll talk specifically about one of them, but their public works, their officers, everything, the powers of what cities can do are outlined in the Wisconsin statutes. So we're going to travel to the west side of Marathon County. We're going to dip into some of the local localities on the west side of Marathon County. So let's go. So if you can start on the corner of Highway 107 and Highway 29, that's a good junction because from there you can see the town of Rib Falls and the town of Castle, and a little bit down the road, which we'll get to, will be the village of Edgar, which we'll get to in a few minutes. So we're going to start off in the town of Castle. The town of Castle is a town. And let's get this out of the way right away. It's not a township. It's the town of Castle. Townships are the range numbers. And I guess that's the best way. The 6x6 area is the town, 6 miles by 6 miles is the town of Castle. Usually they're arranged by the township. So all the towns that you see on this map pretty much match the township range, and sometimes rivers get in the way and boundaries of towns get changed, but what we're seeing is pretty much the town. The town is organized as a governmental unit and it matches that township, but it is officially called a town. So we're talking about the town of Castle.
Just interrupt for a second. It might also just be worth that not every state does this. In Wisconsin, that's the way it is, but the confusion might be other states do use townships.
So Wisconsin, you have to, that's why I emphasize that sometimes there's a confusion, because sometimes they'll be called the township of Castle, but it is really the town of Castle. Here is their town hall. So what I'm going to be doing this afternoon is just sort of giving you a little bit of flavor of what the town does. And I'm doing this by a variety of different ways. But for instance, in February, just this month, the town board, they have a very nice website. So if you wanted to go and see their town agenda, so if you wanted to be there, it's very, very upfront. The town of Castle is quite upfront with regard to what's happening in the town. So this is their agenda, and it looks pretty routine, as sometimes it can be, with treasurer's reports, approval of the bills, the town chairman and clerk report and correspondence. And one of the issues that we keep seeing is the zoning and recycling. I think one of the largest issues that constantly come up in front of town governing bodies would be the zoning and the recycling issues that they have to almost be dealing with every month. And then every town, according to Wisconsin statutes, has to have an annual meeting. So now they were getting ready for that annual meeting, which usually happens in the month of April. And then public input. This town has public, like a town hall meeting, really. So if you have anything to say to the town of Castle that's on your mind, you can show up at the town hall on County Road S and give your input. So again, a little bit of an idea of what a town does and what the town board does. But of course, there's larger issues. The town of Castle has a comprehensive plan that they put together, I believe, several years ago with regard to Marathon County's larger comprehensive plan. The state of Wisconsin urges towns, villages, cities, counties engage in mapping, subdivision, regulation, zoning, and these are all being consistent with the community's comprehensive plan. So again, this is one of the big issues that towns deal with. Comprehensive plans, as well as cities and counties also do, but they are also involved with towns. So let's go up a little north of the town of Castle is the town of Rib Falls. Here we have, they also have a very great website, town of Rib Falls, and this gets you into the town boards, the planning commission, ordinances, resolutions, all in front of you, and elections. And then it goes on to say that Rib Falls is a small rural town. Here they're using the word township with a population of about 1,000. Highway 29 and 107, we pointed that out before. So again, the town of Rib Falls has a code of ordinances. So very detailed with regard to lot size, highway obstructions, mandatory recycling, liquor license. They've taken all upon themselves, put this in their code of ordinances, and all of this is very active on their website, including resolutions on the right that speak to comprehensive plans, and you can see the rest of the resolutions that are always come before the town board. So again, towns can be very active within their area, very active and well-meaning with regard to hearing what the people have to say, and those laws and ordinances that are always drawn up by the towns. So now we're going to visit a village, the village of Edgar, a little bit there, sort of wedged between the town of Castle and the town of Wien, a little bit south of Highway 29. There it is, Edgar. Great, a little bit a part of our community, our county for a long time. So the village of Parks. So here, welcome to Edgar. So with Edgar, I just wanted to show you a little bit more about how their rules, how their ordinances are developed, because they go specifically identifying the village of Edgar as a body corporate, politic, with the powers of a municipality of common law and governed by the provisions of Chapter 61, which we reviewed a little bit earlier, and laws amending those other acts of the legislature and Constitution of the state of Wisconsin. Then it breaks it down into the different levels of government of this village, the legislative branch, the village board, the legislative branch, the executive branch, the village president. So the village has a president, and those are village president ordinances are there, and telling exactly what the village president can do. So the governance is a little different. They have a village president, and of course they have the village board. So the village board shall be vested with all the powers of the village, not specifically given some other officer, as well as those powers set forth elsewhere throughout the code of ordinances that the village of Edgar has. It also has the describes in detail the village board shall be vested with all the powers of the village, not given specifically to some other officers, such as the village president. So it goes on to say what effect by license, regulation, borrowing, taxation. It has all those powers of assessment. It has all those powers that are conferred upon the general powers of the village board. With Edgar, it has sort of an interesting history. This slide is taken from history of the village of Edgar, written not so long ago. But as part of it, I just want to read the first village ordinance, drafted, established by the village seal, which is still in use today. Other ordinances include, on the first village ordinance, include keeping law and order, the penning of all cattle, sheep, goats, mules, horses, establishing fees for peddler, circus, and other traveling entertainment groups, and taking care of the poor in the village. So, you can, at your leisure, you can read, or find this little history of the village. But again, it outlined and tells the story of on day one, some of what the day one village ordinance said, and it spoke to the needs of that village at that time, specifically of taking care of the poor. And I think that was a large job for villages and for other forms of government at that time, but they clearly had it as one of their main goals of that first ordinance in the village of Edgar. So very interesting early history of Edgar. So what else does Edgar? Well, here is an invitation for Edgar Village Hall and Library renovation. Several years ago, the village of Edgar took on the new village offices and the Marathon County Edgar Branch Library. So again, this is one of the jobs that they do. A lot of villages in Marathon County have built a village hall and an appropriate branch library of the Marathon County Public Library. So this is one thing that villages do in Marathon County. And I guess I couldn't let this headline go away. A thriving village, some facts about Marathon County's brightest villages, fine public school buildings, manufactories, and mercantile establishments. A little village, Edgar, sitting there in western Marathon County. I want to come down to Halder. Mostly I want to speak to the town of Emmett, because here we have Emmett, I didn't think that these towns were going to all be lined up on top of each other, so to speak. But here we have the town of Emmett sitting around Highway 153. But as we talked about several months ago on these history chats, there's something called in Wisconsin unincorporated places. Halder is not chartered, it is not corporate. It's just there. It sits there south of 153 in the town of Emmett. It has a cemetery, St. Patrick's as a cemetery. It sits there. It has a variety of other functions, but all of the functions of government in Halder are pretty much taken care of by the town of Emmett. So we have we can almost consider Halder the capital city of the town of Emmett, but it is unincorporated. So the functions of that dealing with snowplows, recycling, and everything in Halder are all done by the larger governmental unit of the town of Emmett. So here we see their town hall, and then they, of course, in Halder they also have the garage that they plow their roads with here in the town of Emmett. So we have those little spots of unincorporated crossroads in Marathon County like Halder, but they don't have a form of government as such. That form of government is done by the town. So I want to now just sort of conclude with a city, a governmental unit of a city. We're going to talk a little bit about Schofield. City of Schofield in 2004, they celebrated 100 years of progress, but you look at 1904, that's kind of late because we know that Schofield was there. There were people settling in that part of Marathon County below the Eau Claire River as it comes into the Wisconsin River, what we know as Schofield. But basically in the 1840s, that started with Mr. Schofield, of course. But it wasn't until later, and we'll get to that. But just so that, here's a little familiar, just so that we know where Schofield is, south of Wausau, tucked in between Rib Mountain and Weston, sort of a city, city unto itself. But again, this is like I was saying about Halder, it took a while. This is Schofield around 1900. The sawmills are there, the people are there, but it still is not it's not a government unit as such. That didn't come until 1904, when residents of the village of Schofield have made application to have that place incorporated as a village. So all those years, it was not a part of a village. It just pretty much sat there as part of, at that time, as part of the town of Weston. But again, in 1904, they started their petition and application to be incorporated as a village. So the votes were counted, 92 for incorporation and 21 against. Again, that petition for being a village, and then soon later on, the election was held in Schofield for the purpose of choosing village officers under the new incorporation. So again, until 1904, it starts to be governed as a village. And this is the actual circuit court. It took circuit court action to become a village. I think Judge Silverthorne. But then later on, I believe in the 1950s, this is a petition to certificate of incorporation of the city of Schofield, Marathon County. So eventually they would petition to become a city, and thus not acknowledging that in May of 1904 they became a village, and now there's pursuing action as a city. So that on this 3rd day of April 1951, an election was duly called, and thus the procedure for them becoming a city and outlining the boundaries was complete, and that was all certified by the Secretary of State. And from as it says, from henceforth, the said city shall be known as the City of Schofield, governed by the provisions of Chapter 62 of the Wisconsin Statutes, which we saw earlier, and then the testimony, and then the official seal of the state of Wisconsin. So that's how Schofield became a village in 1904, and then eventually in the 1950s became a city. So that, and again, I don't, we can spend a lot of time with regard to the ins and outs of all that, of all those governmental units, whether it be towns, villages, or cities. This is just sort of a brief survey, but I just wanted to highlight some of the issues that towns face, that cities face, that villages face, all different, but they all have a unique role in serving the people of the state of Wisconsin and the people of Marathon County, and of course their own unit of government that they serve. So with that, I'll turn it back to Ben.
Awesome. Yeah, a lot of different areas there, and could very easily get very bogged down in some dry stuff ordinances, but I think you did a great job pulling it all together. We have one more on our civics lesson, so to speak, here. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not entirely sure what the subject is going to be. I'm going to look at the county code and actually maybe some of the ordinances that Gary mentioned, the village and city levels and town levels. Pick an interesting thing and, what is in the county code, what are in these ordinances, and maybe do a deep dive on, something that we can kind of pass throughout history and through these things. So one more here in, what are we, February? It's February. One more week here. In March, we'll probably be returning to our favorite March Madness topic there. More on that to come. But also in March, if you're while we're talking about stuff coming up, our next History Speaks is coming up. That'll be the end of March on March 25th, where I'll be talking about sidewalks, trolleys, and motor buses, various ways that people get around Marathon County over the years. So some stuff coming up here. Thanks for watching. We will hope you have a wonderful afternoon, and we will see you next time.